Imagine for a moment you could look back, not just at the years you've lived in this life, but at all the lives your soul has experienced. Imagine understanding that every pain, every disappointment, every emotional wound you carry today isn't just a result of yesterday or last year, but echoes of patterns your soul has been repeating for centuries. This is the profound truth Edgar Cayce, the renowned sleeping prophet, revealed through his psychic readings. Our present pains are reflections of unlearned lessons, of cycles we insist on repeating life after life, until we finally awaken to the consciousness needed to break them. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, though working from a more materialistic perspective, touched on similar truths when he spoke about how our childhood traumas shape our adult personality. But what Freud didn't know, or perhaps intuited in his deepest moments of insight, is that these patterns don't begin in childhood in this life. They're like golden threads connecting one existence to another, carrying with them the memories, fears, wounds, and also the blessings that our soul accumulates on its evolutionary journey. When you feel that inexplicable pain of being rejected by someone, when you experience disproportionate sadness in the face of a seemingly simple situation, when you find yourself repeating the same relational mistakes over and over, know that your soul is trying to show you something. It's whispering, look deeper. This pain you feel now, I felt it before. This person who hurts you we've met in other lives. This repeating pattern is an opportunity for healing that the universe is offering again. The first psychological strategy Freud taught us, which gains a spiritual dimension when viewed through Cayce's eyes, is the recognition of defense mechanisms, but not just as mental constructs created in childhood, but as energetic shields that our soul has developed over multiple lifetimes. When you become overly controlling, when you shut down emotionally, when you attack before being attacked, you're activating defenses that may have been useful in past lives, but today only perpetuate your pain. Observe your life with the eyes of your soul. Notice how certain situations awaken in you reactions that seem greater than the circumstance deserves. A poorly chosen word from your partner sparks an ancestral rage. A gesture of rejection from a friend resonates like an abandonment of cosmic proportions. These are signals, messages from your soul saying, here's an old pattern, here's a wound that has crossed lifetimes. It's time to heal. The second Freudian strategy that transforms into spiritual wisdom is the understanding of transference. Freud observed how we project onto other people feelings and patterns that belong to significant figures from our past. But under the light of reincarnation, this transference takes on a much deeper dimension. You're not just projecting your mother onto your current partner. You may be reliving power dynamics, love, and wounds that you experienced together in past lives. That person who awakens in you an inexplicable passion may be a soulmate with whom you have an ancient spiritual contract. That boss who sparks your anger may be someone with whom you had power struggles in other incarnations. That friend who betrays you may be offering you the opportunity to learn about forgiveness in a way you haven't yet achieved in past lives. Every encounter is sacred. Every wound is a doorway to healing. Every person who enters your life carries with them the possibility of liberation from old patterns. The third strategy involves understanding the unconscious, not just the individual, but the collective and karmic unconscious. Freud spoke about how our repressed desires and fears influence our behavior. Cayce expanded this vision, showing that we also carry memories of past lives, spiritual inheritances, talents, and traumas that have spanned centuries. When you feel an inexplicable fear of being abandoned, when you have recurring nightmares, when you feel drawn to certain historical periods or cultures, your soul is whispering memories of other existences. Learn to dialogue with these memories. Don't fear them, but welcome them with loving curiosity. That fear of heights may be a memory of a fatal fall in a past life. That inexplicable passion for classical music may be a talent developed in an existence as a musician. That difficulty with authority might be an echo of persecutions or oppressions experienced previously. Each memory of the soul is a clue, a fragment of the larger puzzle of your spiritual evolution. The fourth psycho-spiritual strategy is the reframing of neurotic symptoms. Freud saw symptoms as expressions of unresolved internal conflicts. Through Case's spiritual lens, these symptoms take on a much deeper meaning. They are calls from the soul for healing and transformation. Your chronic anxiety may be your soul asking you to trust more in the flow of life. Your depression may be an invitation to delve into the depths of your essence and find your greater purpose. Your panic attacks may be your intuition trying to warn you about paths that no longer serve your evolution. When you stop seeing your symptoms as enemies and begin to see them as messengers, everything changes. Your emotional pain is not a punishment, it's a spiritual GPS indicating directions for your growth. Your relational wounds are not evidence that you are unworthy of love. They are opportunities to learn to love in a purer and more unconditional way. Your fears are not signs of weakness, they are invitations to develop courage and faith. The fifth strategy involves working with dreams, but expanding beyond Freudian interpretation. Case taught that dreams are windows to spiritual dimensions, channels through which our soul communicates with us and offers guidance. When you repeatedly dream about certain people, places, or situations, your soul is trying to process past life memories or receive spiritual guidance for present challenges. Start keeping a dream journal, not just to analyze psychological symbols, but to capture spiritual messages. That dream, where you're in a specific historical period, might be a past life memory calling for attention. That dream, where a deceased person gives you advice, might be genuine spiritual communication. That prophetic dream that later came true might be your spiritual intuition developing. Your dreams are bridges between the material and spiritual worlds, offerings of wisdom from your soul to your conscious personality. And here, as you absorb these profound truths about the spiritual nature of emotional healing, I feel it's time for a special invitation. If these words are resonating with your soul, if you feel you finally found someone who understands the depth of your spiritual journey, then you need to stay connected to this transformative knowledge. Subscribe to this channel now and hit the notification bell, because what we share here isn't just videos, they're keys to your soul's liberation. Each week, we offer new revelations about the connection between psychology and spirituality, new insights on how to heal ancestral wounds and awaken your true spiritual power. Your soul has recognized this truth. Now allow it to continue receiving the spiritual nourishment it so desperately needs. Subscribe now, because your spiritual evolution can't wait. The sixth psycho-spiritual strategy is understanding expanded sublimation. Freud talked about how we transform destructive impulses into creative energy. From a spiritual perspective, this transformation becomes soul alchemy. Every pain you experience carries within it a seed of wisdom. Every emotional wound can be transmuted into compassion. Every trauma can become a source of healing for others. Every loss can awaken a deeper connection with the divine. When you learn to see your painful experiences as raw material for your spiritual evolution, you become an alchemist of your own soul. That romantic rejection can awaken in you a greater capacity for unconditional love. That betrayal can teach you about the illusory nature of human expectations. That loss can open your heart to spiritual dimensions that were previously closed. Every difficult experience is an opportunity for transmutation, a chance to turn lead into gold in the furnace of your heart. The seventh strategy involves understanding psychological complexes as karmic knots. Freud identified how certain emotional patterns crystallize into complexes that influence our behavior. Kaiser shows us that many of these complexes are, in fact, karmic knots, energetic patterns created in past lives that need to be untied in this existence. Your inferiority complex might be linked to a life where you were publicly humiliated. Your fear of intimacy might be connected to romantic betrayals in previous incarnations. Your pattern of self-sabotage might echo guilt you carry from past actions. The healing work, then, becomes a process of untying these knots with love and understanding. It's knots with love and understanding. It's not enough to just intellectually understand your wounds. You need to forgive both yourself and others involved across the dimensions of time and space. You need to send love to your past life selves, understanding to the souls who hurt you in other existences, and gratitude for the lessons all these experiences have offered your evolution. The eighth psycho-spiritual strategy is the development of expanded self-awareness. Freud emphasizes the importance of making the unconscious conscious. From a spiritual perspective, this includes not only the repressed contents of this life, but also soul memories, spiritual contracts, life purposes, and the lessons we came to learn. When you develop this expanded self-awareness, you stop being a victim of sex past tenses and become a conscious co-creator of your reality. Observe the patterns that repeat in your life with spiritual eyes. Notice how certain situations keep manifesting until you learn the lesson they carry. Notice how certain people enter your life exactly when you need to learn something specific. See how your challenges always arrive, accompanied by the tools needed to overcome them. This perception awakens in you the understanding that you're not here by accident. You are a soul on a mission, learning, growing, evolving through each experience. The ninth strategy involves restructuring ego defenses through spiritual surrender. Freud identified how the ego develops defense mechanisms to protect the psyche from unbearable pain. But often, these same mechanisms end up trapping us in limiting patterns. The spiritual perspective invites us to dissolve these defenses through surrender to the divine, trust in the soul's evolutionary process, and surrender to the larger flow of life. When you stop trying to control everything, when you accept that there's a larger plan operating through your life, when you trust that your soul knows exactly what it needs to evolve, a deep peace takes over your being. You no longer need to compulsively defend yourself because you recognize that you are being cared for by a higher intelligence. You no longer need to preemptively attack because you understand that everyone is doing the best they can from their current level of consciousness. But surrender isn't passivity, it's the courage to dance with life instead of fighting against it. The 10th and final psycho-spiritual strategy is integration through unconditional love. Freud spoke about the importance of integrating the rejected aspects of the personality. In a spiritual light, This integration happens through unconditional love, love for all parts of yourself, for all your experiences, for all the souls you've encountered, even those who caused you pain. This love isn't sentimental or naive. It's a deep acknowledgement that everything in your life serves the greater purpose of your spiritual evolution. When you embrace your shadows, your wounds, your mistakes, your limitations with love, something magical happens. They lose their power to control you. When you send love to the people who hurt you, understanding that they too are souls learning resentment dissolves. When you give thanks, even for the most difficult experiences, recognizing the gifts they brought to your growth, you release yourself from the victim role and assume your power as a conscious creator. This unconditional love doesn't mean accepting abusive behavior or remaining in destructive situations. It means recognizing that you can love someone and still choose not to allow that person to continue hurting you. It means understanding that you can forgive without forgetting, that you can have compassion while maintaining healthy boundaries, that you can love unconditionally while making conditional choices about who you share your energy and intimacy with. Throughout this journey of deep healing, you'll begin to notice synchronicities, those magical moments where the universe seems to conspire in your favor. A song that plays exactly when you need to hear its message. A book that comes into your hands at the perfect moment. A casual conversation that offers precisely the guidance you were seeking. A person who appears in your life bringing healing you didn't even know you needed. These aren't coincidences. They're confirmations that you're aligned with your soul's flow, that you're moving in the direction of your highest good. When you integrate these 10 strategies into your life, you don't become immune to pain. You become someone who knows how to dance with it. You understand that pain is a teacher, not an enemy. You recognize that wounds are portals, not prisons. You accept that spiritual growth happens not in spite of difficulties, but through them. Your soul chose this specific life, with these specific challenges, because it knew you had the strength to transform them into wisdom. Every person who hurt you was a teacher in disguise. Every situation that broke your heart was an opportunity to rebuild it bigger and more loving. Every moment of darkness was an invitation to discover the light that has always existed within you. Edgar Cayce taught us that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings occasionally touched by the spiritual. This understanding changes everything. Your wounds aren't evidence that you're broken. They're signs that you're courageous enough to incarnate in a world where the soul can experience intense contrasts to accelerate its evolution. Your tears aren't signs of weakness. They're sacred waters that nourish the soil where your wisdom will germinate. Your scars aren't flaws. They're maps that show the territories you've already conquered on the journey back home, to the remembrance of who you truly are. Freud gave us tools to understand the mind. Cayce offered us keys to heal the soul. Together, these teachings show us that true healing doesn't happen only on the surface of the personality, but in the depths of being, where our divine essence waits patiently to be rediscovered and embraced. As you apply these strategies to your life, observe how your perception of pain transforms. What once seemed unbearable becomes bearable. What once seemed meaningless reveals profound purposes. What once generated resentment awakens gratitude. You're not becoming insensitive. You're becoming wise. You're not denying your wounds. You're transforming them into sources of strength and compassion. Remember that the healing journey isn't linear. There will be days when you feel you've regressed, moments when old pains resurface with full force, situations that challenge all the progress you thought you'd made. These aren't setbacks, they're spirals of evolution, opportunities to heal even deeper layers, chances to integrate wisdom into more subtle levels of your existence. The soul is not in a hurry. It knows that true healing cannot be forced or rushed. It happens in its own sacred time, like a flower that blooms when all conditions are perfect. Your job isn't to accelerate this process, but to honor it, nurture it, trust. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to your moments of fragility. Celebrate every small movement toward healing, every insight that arrives, every moment of peace you find in the midst of the storm. The universe is constantly offering opportunities for healing and growth. Every person who enters your life, every situation you face, every challenge you overcome, it's all part of a larger plan that your soul understands perfectly, even when your mind feels confused. Trust that plan. Surrender to that higher wisdom. Allow yourself to be guided by the loving intelligence that orchestrates your spiritual journey. And when you finally understand, truly understand, that you were never a victim, but always the hero of your own spiritual story, when you realize that every wound was a portal to wisdom, that every loss was a gain in disguise, that every ending was a new beginning waiting to be born, something sacred will happen within you. A peace that transcends understanding will take hold of your heart. A deep gratitude will replace old resentments. An unconditional love for your journey, with all its imperfections and beauties, will blossom like a rose growing in the desert of the human soul. This is the promise life makes to every soul, brave enough to embrace their healing journey, that on the other side of pain lies luminous wisdom waiting to be unearthed, that through tears a clearer vision of reality is revealed, that at the heart of the deepest wounds sleep the most precious treasures of spiritual evolution. So I ask your soul, are you ready to stop being wounded and start being healed? Are you prepared to transform your wounds into wings and fly toward the higher version of yourself you always knew was possible?